time for Building Momentum, brought to you by Momentum Advocacy. If your organization, business, or corporation needs to understand the complex nature of our capital, you need to get a hold of Momentum Advocacy. Let's talk about what's going on in Minnesota today.
Lucky to have him. He is Brian McDaniel with Momentum Advocacy. Thanks, Brian, for being here today with us.
Always a pleasure.
Just to find out who you are, I mean, we get Amy Frederickson on now, Amy Koch, quite a little bit. We know because of the other guests we have on the show. Oh, she's a gambling fool. She is evidently in a football pool with, I think it's Senator Karen Nelson. So I have no doubt this weekend with the Super Bowl, she's rooting for one team, another, probably because of who her quarterback is or not. I don't know the whole thing. She's not here. Are you that guy? Are you a fantasy football, get on a team guy? You're smiling. You are. Okay, this will help a lot about you.
This year I had 9 fantasy football teams, and it's a sickness. And you would think I'd be much you would think I would be much better at it, considering how much time I put into it. But a comedian friend of mine once said that you should have the same number of fantasy football teams as you do cats. Anything more than 2 is just weird.
Wow, that says, okay, just to get in your fantasy football head for a while. So then when you do 9 teams, do you do your very best to try to get basically the same guys? Or on a weekend, any given weekend, every game you've got 2-3 guys and you don't know who to root for? How does that not drive you clinically insane?
Well, I mean, there's a couple. First of all, you kind of fall in love with certain players. So even if you're not you're not intending to get the same players, you kind of end up doing that. But I like to diversify. And then when I'm on Sunday, it's like the stock market. Yeah. I'm losing a little bit here, but I'm gaining a little bit here. So,
see, that's what I just dislike about fantasy. I played 2 years basically with my kids when this thing first started, and I found I could only put Vikings on my team because I could not root against my team on a Sunday because I need some other guy to score a touchdown to win a weird game that doesn't exist. I can't do it. It says a lot about you, Brian. First off, mentally, that you have the capacity is beyond me, but okay.
Well, I'm a Chicago Bears guy, and I almost never draft Chicago Bears because they're always going to disappoint me. So if they're on my team, they're going to do terrible. If they're on the other team, they're going to do well, and at least I get to say the Bears won. So,
okay, so you've reverse psychology to your own self.
Yep.
You got a lot of people up there, my friend. There's a lot of people up in your head. The Chicago Bears, I did actually notice that. I must follow you on Facebook. I saw you somewhere. Someone liked it or something. You are quite the Bears fan. You were devastated, I presume, by that last loss.
Well, I mean, a lot of people think that I would, but I mean, the Bears won the division. They beat the Packers in the playoffs. I had very reasonable expectations. But yeah, this was a fun year to be a Bears fan, which is not normally the case.
So then who do you want to win a Super Bowl? Might I ask? You got the Seahawks, who are a 4.5-point favorite, and then, of course, New England.
I think Seattle's the better team. Certainly I think that there's good coaching on both sides. There's good quarterback play on both sides, though. You're either going to trust a rookie or you're going to trust Sam Darnold. But, Drake May for the Patriots, he's looked very good all season. His playoffs have not been that good, and they've had a pretty easy route to it. So I think that it's going to be Seattle relatively easy, but, that's why they play the game.
It is amazing to me how many people play fantasy football. You, Housley, Amy. I mean, it's like everybody. Okay. I thought I was past that at my age. Maybe not. Let me ask you this. When caucuses came up on Tuesday, and I knew it would be fun. Straw polls are interesting to me. They mean nothing as far as it's a snapshot in time. No one's held to it. But when you look, let's say, the results from the gubernatorial race for the Republicans, Damon comes out far ahead. Then it was Qualls, and it was 700 points. I might have been off a little bit on the percentage on meter. And then it was a bit of a fall off to Mike Lindell. But then after that, there's quite the Grand Canyon to the rest. What does that say to you? Does that make a lot of sense? It shows you what you thought was going to happen?
Well, I mean, it's certainly what should have happened. I don't know if Mike and Lindell coming in third is what should have happened. But Damon and Qualls both represent people who are relatively mainstream and certainly would not damage the brand
Mhm.
the way some other candidates have, Royce White and some
Sure.
other people, if I can be so bold. So I was
Sure.
very happy that the delegates seem to be making choices based on electability as well as their policy positions.
Yeah, and then Lindell, you got to think he's going to get some just because of the name, right? I mean, the pillow guy, he's been a sponsor here for some time. He's not currently why he's running, but just name recognition, you're going to get something. But then there are others, and this is what I asked. Christian Robbins, and I like this young lady. She's been on the program. When you get when undecided voted more for undecided than her, is it time for her to possibly look and say, this is a tough road now for me here. Maybe I can stake a claim. The House is at, 67, 67. I don't need to give that up. Maybe she could take the Senate seat and help them there. Does she need to start looking at stuff like that compared to this, now I would say, long shot to get the governor's race?
Well, Krista Robbins is someone who I've worked with a number of years. I really do think very highly of her.
Yep.
Fraud is really her main position playing. Now, with Lisa Dameth, the speaker, she has picked a running mate,
Yeah.
but Kendall Qualls has not. So,
Oh, I see.
other than Kristen Robbins maybe linking up
Okay.
with Kendall Qualls, I think that probably she needs to take a step back, run for her House seat again, or I think you alluded to this. Her state senator Warren Limmer is retiring, so that gives her an out as well if she wanted to run for the
Yeah.
state senate seat.
But with the others, and I guess other than Scott Jensen, Dr. Jensen, who had run before, and I'm sure he was disappointed with how that came out. The numbers so far, of the 14 that are left, and 8 of them I think are undecided. Is it time for them to relook and say, let's just narrow this field so the others can battle it out? Do you expect a lot of them to fall?
I do. I mean, at this point, I can't imagine that they're raising very much money. They don't
Yeah.
seem to have a ton of support, and with people like Mike Lindell, people like Lisa Dameth, who can raise a fair amount
Yeah.
of money, they just won't be able to keep up.
All right. On the other side of the coin, of course, Amy Klobuchar gets in late. I can say that I think a few days before the caucuses, but it's Amy Klobuchar, right? It's Minnesota. She gets in and obviously wins the caucus or straw polls. But there was really some signs that seemed interesting. I think in District 62, very downtowny area in Minneapolis, the undecideds there were she almost didn't win undecided in that category when there's no one else running against her. What does that say to you? Does she need to tack left really hard, really quick? Is that an iceberg ahead?
I don't think so. I mean,
Okay.
when you're looking at, in fact, I'm in District 62 right now,
Oh.
and I think I see Democratic socialists all around me. So I think you have to realize where that is. In
Okay.
Minneapolis, has a very, kind of a
Yeah.
different political scheme than the rest of them. But it's Amy Klobuchar, and
Yeah.
while the progressive left is not going to love her, I mean, essentially, she was a prosecutor. She's a cop as far
Yeah.
as they're concerned. But Amy Klobuchar will, on the Democratic side, will run away with the nomination and will be extraordinarily hard for any Republican to beat.
Well, and then that's the last little thing I'd like to chat with you about on that is that KSTP did a poll one-on-one, Klobuchar against all the Republicans. For the most part, she had 49 or 50, percent. And then the Republicans, no matter who it was, 30, 32. I mean, she was beaten by 14, 15 points.
Yeah.
And okay, that makes sense. But when you look at that then, and this is what I'm saying, so there's 30, 35% rock solid going to vote for Republican. But on the Klobuchar side, and this is what got me, is it's Senator Klobuchar. 20-some years. The most recognized name in politics in Minnesota, the most beloved person. I mean, she's on Amy, and she got to 50. And there are 16, 17 undecided. Shouldn't that scare a little bit? Could that possibly be her ceiling? And from here on out, it goes down as the Republicans whittle themselves down. It had been a little scary, wasn't it? Wouldn't you think 60, 65 for Senator Klobuchar?
I mean, I certainly was surprised that she was below 50% in so many different, and frankly, her statewide approval rating was a little
Yeah.
bit below. And
Would you?
that surprised me a lot. What it tells me is that there's so much going on right now that not everyone's paying attention to this because of all the
That's
other things. Now Amy Klobuchar, she's a juggernaut.
yeah.
Unless you were staff for her, you probably think she's pretty great in a lot of ways.
That's funny.
I'm not breaking any news here for anybody in Minnesota politics. But she is somebody who knows how to raise money, plays it relatively safe so that she does not abandon kind of the Minnesota moderates. And so even though I think that the number will get closer with let's just assume that it's Dameth or Qualls, that will get closer as they get more statewide attention. But Klobuchar is an institution, and absent something super screwy happening, which does happen literally weekly here,
in this day.
I think she's feeling pretty good, probably.
All right. We've got to go to break. The only other seat that really is worth talking about, I think some interesting stuff going on, is that other Senate seat, and I want to talk to you about that. Can I do that after the break?
Absolutely.
He's Brian McDaniel on the Al Travis Show for Momentum Advocacy.
When the stakes are high at the Minnesota Capitol, you need more than a lobbyist. You need a partner. At Momentum Advocacy, we bring nearly 90 years of combined experience in government relations, public affairs, and strategic communications. From nonprofits to national corporations, we help organizations navigate Minnesota's political landscape with integrity, insight, and results. Whether you need legislative champions or headlines, Momentum Advocacy delivers. For more, visit momentum-advocacy.com. Momentum Advocacy, your friends at the Capitol.
Amongst friends, the Al Travis Show. Nothing but talk.
Love having him on. Brian McDaniel with Momentum Advocacy. We're talking, of course, building momentum. You're going to get anything done at the Capitol this year? I'm telling you what, you need them. This is going to be cray up there starting in 2 weeks. But Brian, let's do this real quick. The other Senate race. The Senate race with Angie Craig, Representative Craig, and Lieutenant Governor Flanagan. This has been pretty ho-hummer for a Senate race, in my opinion. But then Flanagan comes out and says, I've done a couple polls. They tell me I'm up 13%. And Craig gets a little upset. Hey, that's your own poll, people. That's not going to be right. Well, then KSTP comes out And Craig comes out at 20, Lieutenant Governor Flanagan at 19, basically tied. And then Tina Smith. Senator Smith weighs in when she said she wasn't going to endorse him, but she goes for Flanagan. Makes me think, why would you do that? Somebody thinks this is closer than the world thought it would be. Well, then Phillips comes out and, well, I'm for Craig then. This race got fun now, didn't it? I mean, now all of a sudden it's like, let's talk. Who's on whose side?
Well, and this was always going to get fun. They can only run against Trump for so long. At some point, they need to run against each other, because this is really what I think sank Kamala, is that Kamala ran against Trump. She needed to run against Biden, and she didn't. And so they're gonna have to go. And this is something where they represent just very two different parts of the Democrat Party. Peggy Flanagan being much more progressive. I was not surprised that Tina Smith endorsed her, just knowing their personal connections going all the way back, and with Angie Craig voting for the Lake and Riley Act. Those progressives are pretty mad at her about that. But what we're seeing is that Peggy is doing a great job with Minnesota delegates. Angie Craig is doing great with money. And the plan for each of them has probably always been Peggy's going to get endorsed, and Angie is going to make a real hard play to win the primary. And it is. I mean, right now, I can't handicap it. I almost kind of think Flanagan is just doing more to get Minnesotans excited. But I think Angie Craig is definitely the stronger statewide candidate.
Well, and I think Craig still has some punches to throw, as far as Lieutenant Governor has seemed to gotten by pretty well without her name being anywhere in the fraud stuff. You really don't hear about it. It's like, wait a minute, if Governor Walz would have won the vice president, you were the next in charge. I presume you're sitting in the meetings for the last 6 months to a year, and yet, you know what, you're still going to be weird. So far, she's been untouched, and I find that interesting. So we'll see how that goes. On the other side, though, give me your Michelle Tafoya on that same poll. She already shows up at 13%, been in a week and a half. The Royce White people aren't going Flanagan or Craig, so throw his 7%, and maybe Tom Wheeler and so forth. She's in the mix, and she got in a week ago. What is your thoughts on the Republicans? I'm not saying it's hers to win. She is a pro-choice Republican, which doesn't necessarily mean she's going to get the nod. And she had some tough comments on Trump in 2020. So, I mean, she's not got this wrapped up. But her jumping twice as much as anybody else has been in for a while, the Republican side, what do you think of that race?
Well, it shows the power of name identification, and Michelle Tafoya has been around Minnesota and on people's TV screens for a very long time. I do think she is clearly the most electable candidate on the Republican side, and I had this conversation with some friends the other day. When I used to go to precinct caucuses before, it was only abortion. That's the only thing anyone talked about. It's not that way anymore. The Dobbs decision, which overruled Roe v. Wade, has kind of made it not the big topic anymore. So while I think that certainly that being pro-choice doesn't help her with delegates, it certainly doesn't hurt her with the overall electorate, especially if it's someone like Peggy Flanagan, who represents just a very far left progressive view. Now, one thing I have to admit, I did grow up with Michelle Tafoya's husband. We played baseball together, but I also probably haven't seen him. I haven't probably seen him since college. So
fair enough. Well, you'll probably start getting texts and emails. I get them all the time now. I don't know who got my phone number sometime 20 years ago, and the unstoppable texts from these people that are running for office drives me nuts. You can type "stop in" 1,000,000 times. I copy and paste it now. It's gone. Anyway, the other thing I want to ask you about this conversation that possibly if Amy Klobuchar wins, she would, at one point, they're talking about give it to Walz, give her seat to Walz, nominate him. I think that's too toxic, right? I think that would hurt her image. But on the other hand, they're talking, well, if Angie Craig and or Flanagan don't get their nomination for their seat, she could then take the loser of that and offer him a Senate seat. Does that get a little too a little icky? But there's a great question. Icky?
Yeah. I mean, here's what I would say. It's going to be really interesting, assuming, not assuming, but if Amy Klobuchar becomes governor, she will get to kind of pick her successor. But if you kind of look, politics is about teams, even when it's right or left. And traditionally, Flanagan and Walls and Keith Ellison haven't been Team Klobuchar.
Yeah.
And so I would be surprised. Now, there are political reasons why she might pick one of them, but she doesn't need to. So I think that somebody like Steve Simon would be much more linked with Amy Klobuchar. If Angie Craig doesn't get her seat, doesn't get the Senate seat, that I think would be plausible. But I don't think it would be anyone from the ultra progressive left.
Fair enough. I got 30 seconds. I want people to know this is going to be crazy. I don't know if it's going to be guns, if it's going to be the ICE stuff, if it's going to be fraud. Everything's going to go on the Capitol. If somebody has something they want to get done at the Capitol or not done, how do they get a hold of you at Momentum Advocacy? Because if you want to stand out, you're going to need somebody like you guys to make it happen.
Well, obviously, check out our website at momentum-advocacy.com. You can follow me on any of my socials, Brian R. McDaniel. You can get a hold of us there, but you need someone that'll help you cut through all the noise, and the noise will be significant.
Absolutely, it will. I appreciate you so much, sir, coming on the program. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And that's another Building Momentum with Momentum Advocacy. Your friends at the Capitol. Join us every other week to